Hey, how's it going? My name is Chase McGee, and I am the CEO of Focus Digital. Today, I am releasing a brand new SEO training entitled Building an SEO Lead Generation System. So to clear some things up front, why am I making this? Well, the main reason I'm making this is because there's a lot of disinformation out there about what actually makes a difference in terms of SEO. There's a billion different people offering SEO, and all of them have their slightly different way of doing it. And a lot of them sound very similar. It's something along the lines of, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to update some keywords, write some blog content, and go and do link building. And that is going to make your website go up in the Google search rankings, and that is going to make you more money. I have found that this traditional SEO strategy does not work today in 2024 with the Google algorithm, and that there is a much different approach to SEO called thought leadership SEO that truly makes a difference. So who is this training for? Well, I have found that SEO works best for B2B and B2C companies with a lifetime gross profit per customer of greater than $1,000, or this type of thought leadership SEO works best for. It does not typically work well if you're selling to institutions or governments, so that's something to keep in mind. So to jump in here, the presentation is called Building an SEO Lead Generation System. Why do I call it a system? Well, the reason is because this is truly something that can take on a life of its own once it's set up. If we think about what a system is, it's something that you can provide inputs into and you'll receive outputs on the other side. And that is SEO, and that's the Google algorithm. If we put in the correct inputs, then our outputs will be a pipeline of qualified leads who we wouldn't have otherwise had that are ready to buy. And the reason we know they're ready to buy is because the reason that they found us through SEO in the first place is because they were already searching for the product or service that we're selling on Google. And so the purpose of this training is to show you exactly how to build that system. We've had clients that we build this out for, and it literally builds pipelines for them in their business of hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales that come from just their website. This means they're not having to spend money on ads. They're not having to just hope that their advertising prices don't go up for the channels that are working for them. And most importantly, they're not having to rely on that word of mouth, repeat business, or referrals that so many businesses either have feast on or they have famine on because it's so inconsistent. SEO is an incredibly consistent lead generation mechanism because it's built on the fundamentals of how we as humans behave when we're going to buy a product or service. It's not a far-fetched to say that when I go to buy something or you go to buy something, especially if it's important, we do a Google search first. We research. We read what people are saying on their websites, and we determine who our intuition tells us is going to be the best fit for our needs. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the training here. So the first slide is simply entitled SEO Defined. And I think that starting with a very broad view is what's going to be the best way to begin. So SEO is simply how do we rank our website page at the top of Google whenever someone searches a transactional keyword that indicates they want to buy our product or service. And so if you truly think about this, it makes all the sense in the world. We want to be number one if someone types in what we sell. It's the easiest way to bring in leads. I mean, I know we've all thought it. You look at your competitors and you say, hey, I do better work than those guys. But whenever someone searches for the keyword or the search term that we offer, they search for HVAC repair, or they search for, I want an orthopedic surgeon. What they're met with is a lot of results, but maybe it's you, maybe it's not. And so the purpose of SEO is to get you to show up for those keywords that indicate someone wants to buy your product or service. So I'd like to take a moment to touch on organic versus paid results, because there's two categories of this search engine marketing ecosphere. The first is paid results, or pay-per-click, or Google AdWords, as you might have heard it called, which is essentially where we're paying Google, typically it's paid on a per-click basis, to rank at the top, and we're bidding on those slots. For some industries, it's 50 cents a click. For some industries, it's $50 a click, and there's everything in between. What I have up on the screen right now is the click-through rates by ranking position. So it's generally just the percent of people who are going to click on the ad position versus the number one organic position. And typically, if I'm giving this speech to a live audience, I poll the room and I say, okay, how many of you, if you're searching for something that matters, you're looking for a new security system for your home, you're looking for a surgeon, you're looking for a manufacturer for a specific component you need, any of those, are you going to trust the ads or are you going to trust the organic rankings? And every single time, 95% of the room says, I'm going to skip right down to the organic rankings. And the reason why that is because we've all been conditioned over the past 25 years of Google to believe that whoever ranks at the top of Google is the best in whatever thing we're searching for. And it may not be something that we're conscious that we believe, but we act on those feelings in everyday life. Whenever we're researching something truly important, we always look at who is the number one result on Google. We might look at the number 2, number 3 spot, but generally we don't look much further. And this is because, like I said, we've been conditioned by Google and other search engines in a lot of ways to just rely on them, in that they're going to put the best company at the top. And I want to make a special note here and just say, if you notice that organic position number 1 gets about 20 times more clicks than ad number 1. And by the way, this data is for that kind of target I mentioned, your B2B, your B2C, you're selling something with a lifetime gross profit of greater than $1,000. Obviously, if you're searching for a t-shirt, then it may not be as big of a deal to click on the organic results versus the paid search results. It's typically when there's real skin in the game that you want to go to the organic results. So here's a brief outline of why thought leadership SEO, why use our model of SEO, why trust that this is a viable lead generation strategy for your business. Well, the first reason is there's an average ROI of about 748% over 3 years. Now, this varies from about 550% up to about 1150%, depending on which industry that you're in. But generally, it's well worth your time, in whatever industry you are in. It's going to be in your top, most profitable, highest return advertising channels. And it makes sense because you're not having to consistently pay for Google to send you traffic, pay for Facebook to send you traffic, pay for the radio to send you traffic, pay for TV to send you traffic. You're ranking up there once, or for however many pages you're attempting to rank. Typically, we recommend about 50 to 200. And you're just updating that content to hold those rankings. And that's the extent of the work once you have the system in place. So the second reason why thought leadership SEO is you get the highest intent, most ready to convert traffic. So we've touched on this before, but if you think about who's actually typing into Google and landing on your site from an SEO campaign, it's the people who are, one, already typing in what you sell, saying, hey, I want to buy this. They're typing in, hey, I want XYZ service. And as a byproduct of that, you're also getting the people that didn't click on the ads. And we kind of established earlier in this one-way dialogue that most people who are serious about buying something important that's going to cost them several $1,000s, all the way up to hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, they're going to look at the organic rankings, not the ads. So you're already weeding out the people who maybe aren't as serious. So the next reason why thought leadership SEO is very much worth putting into your business is it can be successful for companies of all sizes. So Google was founded on this idea that it's at the core a meritocracy. And what that means is they're only concerned with who can provide the best page or the best piece of content for whatever keyword that's being targeted. And so over a long enough time horizon, the people who are truly generating the best content, the most authoritative content, and the content that's best used for the Google search results are going to rank at the top. And this makes sense because Google would not make any money unless people found what they were looking for whenever they Googled something. So if you searched, hey, I want a brownie recipe, and the first thing that popped up when you searched that was a cookie recipe, you probably wouldn't go back to Google whenever you wanted, a cake recipe. You'd say, oh, Google couldn't figure it out with brownies. Why do I think they can figure it out now? And if you extrapolate this concept over billions of searches, you end up with a conceptual understanding of why it's in Google's best interest to be a meritocracy, to let whoever is truly best at producing valuable content rank. And the last reason why thought leadership SEO, well, it's certainly not the last reason, but the last reason I'm listing, is you can build thought leadership positioning with your prospects. So most of the time, whenever people show up to sales calls, you have to convince them of your expertise. You have to explain to them, hey, here's why we're the best. Here's why you should trust us. Here's why, we're better than all of those other guys. Well, if you've done a proper SEO campaign and they've consumed your content and they've looked at some of your competitors' websites, they're already going to see that you're heads and shoulders above what your competitors are offering. And in a way, that's why I'm making this training, because it allows you, if you're in our target market, to come in and see what we're about and know that we know what we're talking about before we ever talk on the phone. If you're not in our target market, I hope you enjoy the training. So that's the four main reasons why thought leadership SEO. So we touched on it briefly a moment ago, but this whole thing starts with the Google algorithm. So there's, probably 30 plus factors that are in the Google algorithm that we know about. The Google algorithm is not open sourced, but they do give us a lot of hints. And we've kind of boiled down this complex algorithm into two main factors. The first factor is making sure your meta title tags are correct. So meta title tags are simply what you see in blue whenever you search for a query on Google. Now, the reason why these are important is because it tells Google this is what you should expect to find on the page. And we'll touch on this more in a moment, but it's based on the system that academic research papers use. They have keywords in them that allow researchers to better find the information they're after. And Google works the exact same way. If you place your title tag or you place a well thought through title tag that's getting sufficient search volume and indicates that someone wants to buy your product or service, and you put that in your title tag, then you're telling Google, hey, this page is for the person who is searching this. And this is a huge, huge ranking factor in the Google algorithm. And I think it makes sense because how else would Google truly know what you're attempting to rank for? They have to know who's in the running to rank for a particular keyword. Like if I make a page all about computer software, but my title tag is for example, that it says something along the lines of computer monitors or computer hardware, then Google is going to think that the page is supposed to be about Google hardware or computer hardware when in reality it's about software, and there's going to be a very big disconnect and you're not going to rank. So that's why it's so important to get the meta title tag right. Now, I mentioned that having a right meta title tag puts you in the running to rank for a keyword. It raises your hand. It says, hey, Google, this is what I'm trying to rank for with this page. This is how I'm categorizing or self-categorizing this piece of information that I'm putting on the internet. However, that's not enough because there's so many other people probably already targeting that particular keyword. And this is where Google Trust comes into play. So how much Google trusts your website to provide high quality content plays a big role in how well you can actually rank on Google. And there's two aspects of Google Trust. The first is consistent, high quality content. What do I mean by this? I mean the content isn't fluff. It's not duplicated from other websites. It's not an average of the blog articles that 5 of your competitors wrote. I mean it's authoritative. It truly presents new information. And it provides something new to Google that they haven't seen before. They haven't seen the information presented in this way before. And this makes all the sense in the world. If you are going back to this core concept of Google where they need to be able to provide high quality results to the people using their platform or they go out of business, if you are one of the people consistently providing Google with high quality content that they can use, then Google is going to love your website. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's definitely what you can get to with consistent publication of high quality content. The next factor in the Google algorithm is links. So you hear this concept of a backlink thrown around all of the time. And the reason why this concept of a backlink exists, which is simply where another website links to your website, in that you can click a button or a piece of blue text or whatever it might be on another site, and it takes the person to your site within their browser. The reason why this is a thing is to go back to the founding of Google when they wrote their original research paper that formed the Google algorithm at its core. They thought to themselves, hey, if we have 2 different research papers, and one of the research papers has 20 citations in other peer-reviewed articles, and this one over here has 50 citations in peer-reviewed articles, this one is probably better. And that's where this concept of links came from. But this goes hand in hand with high quality content, because if you produce high quality content and you do it over time, and the content is appealing and it's useful and it's authoritative, then other people will naturally link to that content from their website. So by doing one, you get the other. And I'm going to go more into backlinks later because there's a lot of misinformation out there about how, you need to go out and do link building and you need to outreach, send emails to a bunch of different websites and try to convince them to list your site or do guest posting or go in and try to find directories to put your website in. And the reality is that these are all methods that were once used to game the system. Google never was designed to say, okay, the person who can gimmick their way onto as many websites as possible should get to rank number 1. That doesn't make any sense because in the research paper example, this person got 50 citations in other research papers because they had the best content in theirs. And that's what Google was trying to achieve. So speaking of that, we'll just go ahead and go into what the history of SEO looks like. So back when Google was founded, kind of like I mentioned, it's based on this idea of research papers where you have keywords in research papers which tell researchers what the research paper is about. And then you have citations of these research papers which tell researchers how authoritative or how good the content in these research papers was. And they're taking that concept and they're putting it on the internet. And that's what Google is to start. And so from 1998, when Google went public, or not public as a company, but the public could use Google, to 2006, there was a kind of Wild West era of SEO, and it's titled Links and Keywords. Because what you could do is you could put up a website, and then you could go pay for 1,000 other websites to link back to your site. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to go pay people to let me post a blog on their website, or I'm going to go spam my links in a bunch of forums. And this caused a lot of problems because just whoever could figure out how to finagle their way onto as many websites as possible would end up ranking number one on Google. And obviously, this is not what they intended. They wanted the person that had truly the best piece of content to rank number one on Google. Now, there's another part of this that was also happening, and because I mentioned keywords. Part of the original Google algorithm said, hey, whoever has the keyword that they're targeting written the most number of times on the page, they probably have the most relevant piece of content. Now, of course, this wasn't true. So what people did is they would make white text on a white background and they'd write their keyword, 500 times going down the page, or they would make their sentences in such a way so it said the same keyword over and over and over again. And these were issues with the original Google algorithm that let these things slide through. However, they didn't really have much choice. They hadn't developed the algorithm enough yet. But that all started to change around the 2004 to 2007 era, to the point where 2007 kind of marks the beginning of a new era of Google. There had been a series of updates that had happened that had allowed the algorithm to advance to the point where those links and keywords days were mostly over. And we entered an age of content marketing. What do I mean by content marketing? Well, if you think about Google, they were getting, at this point, hundreds of millions, if not billions, of individual searches. People searching for everything you could imagine under the sun. And what Google realized was they had a severe shortage of content that was available on the internet. And so for a lot of these search terms that people were searching, they could not find a good response to that query. And so what they did is if someone would simply make a blog and they'd write about a 500-word article, they could throw a stock image at the top, just a very generic internet style, late 2000s blog article, then they would rank high on Google and they would get a ton of traffic to their website. Now, this is an improvement and this is better because now you're forcing people to actually make good content in order to get visitors to their website. But it's not really going far enough yet, in that there was such a shortage of content available on the internet for all these different keywords that people are searching that they had no choice but to rank these subpar articles that in many times were being mass produced. They weren't being thought through carefully. No one was sitting there thinking critically about, hey, how can we make sure that the person who finds this blog article is getting the true best experience that they could possibly get? So around the end of 2014 to the middle of 2015, we hit a new era entitled Hub and Spoke. And so now you have to think we've been doing this whole make a bunch of blog articles thing for 7 years at this point. And that's not going to work forever because the internet's going to fill up and there's going to be tons of blog articles and there's not going to be much differentiation between them. And so Google realized, hey, we have to adapt again because people are more or less just creating the same bland content and we have no idea how to rank one website over another when the content's more or less the same. So enter Hub and Spoke. So Hub and Spoke was actually popularized or innovated by the CRM company HubSpot. They started off as an SEO company before moving into the CRM space. And what Hub and Spoke is it said, instead of making blogs about all these different topics, what if we made one singular long page called a hub that was a long, thorough page that had a lot of information about one topic on it, and then they linked to a cluster of related content. So these might be 10 to 15 other pages that were also about that same core concept that went more in depth into different areas. So the reason why this was an improvement is Google started understanding, okay, this website has 20 articles that are all well written, more thorough, more in depth about this one topic versus this other website that maybe only has 5. And so they began to incorporate a concept called niche expertise into the Google algorithm. And essentially what this means is that they would look at that and they'd say, okay, this particular company or website has a lot more information out there about this one concept. Therefore, they must be more versed, more of a thought leader in that particular space, and they deserve to rank higher, even if another larger company with maybe more traditional trust, even if that company made a page about that one keyword, this other smaller company, if they had niche expertise and was making a lot of unique authoritative content about that keyword, they could rank above this big company over here. And that really goes back to the concept of meritocracy, like I mentioned at the beginning. And so towards the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, we hit a new era. And this is what I believe to be the final true era of Google algorithm development, because they've finally reached where they were looking to get to when they started Google way back at the beginning. And that's the era of content quality. And content quality is defined as a focus on fulfilling search intent, original data, and unique organization. So what do I mean by search intent? Well, that is just the intention or what someone is looking for when they search a keyword. And what Google is trying to do is they're going to say, hey, we want to put the page at the top that's going to best satisfy the search intent of the searcher. Or it's going to give that person everything that they expect to find whenever they Google that search query. And so in today's day and age, whoever does that the best, and you do it with original data, unique organization of ideas, original content, authoritative content, then you're going to win. Now, hub and spoke isn't completely dead. Niche expertise still plays a huge role in the Google algorithm, and we highly recommend publishing content around topical clusters. We actually organize our campaigns around it, but it's something to keep in mind that the barrier for the quality of the content has gone up. It's not enough to just make a bunch of content that's related to one another. All of those pieces of content have to truly be unique. They're uniquely organized. The data is authoritative, etc., etc. And so the core idea to remember here is that SEO in 2024 is the art of producing the best piece of content for every commercially valuable keyword. Those are keywords that people are typing in that indicate they want to buy your product or service. So how do you actually launch and execute a successful SEO campaign? Well, there's a lot to it, but I've condensed it into a 4-step process. The first step is to consider the range of commercially valuable keywords. It's simply to think about all of the different keywords that someone who wants to buy your product or service might be typing in. The next aspect is to sort keywords into topical pillars and rank order. This goes back to that concept of hub and spoke and niche expertise. We want to put keywords together that make topical sense to go together so that when Google looks at, they've published 15 pieces of content in the last 2.5 months and all of this content is related, then you're building niche expertise. The other thing you want to do is rank order it. So we recommend rank ordering by the transactional value of the keyword, and that if we ranked number 1 for this keyword, this would deliver us this much money in our estimation, or this many leads. And if we rank number 1 for this keyword, it would give us this much money, this many leads. Let's put these in order based on our estimation of which ones are going to be the most valuable. Step 3 is to assign each keyword a page type and strategic objective. Now, the reason you do this is because each keyword has a different search intent. So for example, if I search best CRM company, then I'm looking for a type of sales page about one CRM because I typed a singular keyword that sells me on why this one particular CRM is the best. But if I search best CRM companies, and that's plural, then that's indicating I want a list. I want to compare 8 to 10 different CRM companies, see the different features, the different price points, what each of them offer me. Then I want to choose based on that. And so one of them is a product service page. The other one is a comparison page. And so we assume that whenever we go in and write it, it actually fulfills the search intent the best. And the last piece of this is to write content that deeply satisfies searcher intent. We touched on that before, but is the person, when they land on the page, finding the answers to all the questions they had, and also finding out the answers to questions that they didn't have, but they should have had, and they're glad they know the answers to this now. It's that second level of thinking and understanding, hey, what are the logical next questions that someone's going to ask that instead of them going and Googling and finding those answers on another website, we already anticipated those and put them in our response, in our page. So the first step is to consider the range of commercially valuable keywords. So what you can see here is I have broken out a bunch of different keywords that I might target for my website. So I might have a simple transactional keyword, just like SEO agency. I might search for it in the confines of a specific industry, healthcare SEO agency, or manufacturing company for aerospace parts, or whatever it might be. I might have broad research keywords. Hey, healthcare SEO strategy. Or, you might say, what's the best SEO strategy for manufacturers, or along those lines. It's transactional in intent, and that someone would not be searching that unless they were interested in running an SEO campaign. And so we want to hit those as well. We might have specific research keywords. So that might be someone's looking for specific information on the customer acquisition cost for the healthcare industry. Typically, these kind of fall into data. So it might be like webinar conversion rates, Airbnb booking rates, et cetera, specific research keywords. So then there is use case keywords, which is where you're searching for a particular use case of a product or service. So SEO agency for content, manufacturer for wooden parts, manufacturer for steel parts, et cetera, et cetera. And then the last one is location-based keywords. So it might be like SEO agency in North Carolina, where we're based. It might be, I want an orthopedic surgeon in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because that is where you're located and that's where you're looking for a surgeon in. So that's how you consider the range of commercially valuable keywords. Next is you sort those keywords into topical pillars and rank order. So as you can see here, I have 2 keyword pillars that we did for one of our clients up on the screen. Pillar number 1 is centered around their capabilities as a die cutting company. So we made individual product service pages for all of their different capabilities. So when someone searched, hey, I want a steel rule die cutting company, then we'd already made a page for that could rank for that particular keyword. Next, we said we're going to go after materials. That way when someone says, hey, I need a die cutting material or a die cutting company for tape or a die cutting company for paper, then we had pages to cover that range of keywords as well. The next topical pillar for them is going to be about locations, centered around the biggest manufacturing hubs in the United States. This is, it's something that it takes some time and some expertise to truly be able to understand this. However, once you do, it begins to make sense. Hey, these are the keywords we should go after. Here's the range of targets we have. So to touch on why we did them in this order, why we did capabilities first, why we did materials second, how do we know which keywords to go after first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc.? It comes down to how to determine keyword value. So the first way to determine keyword value is simply data on which keywords have led to qualified leads. So if you have a type of SEO campaign that you've run in the past, then a lot of times you'll have data on specific keywords, or maybe you've paid searched these keywords. You've run a Google PPC campaign and you say, hey, this one particular keyword brought us in the most leads, or it brought us in the most revenue. You might choose to make an SEO page for those keywords first, or improve your SEO page for those keywords first. Like, for example, let's say you had a location page for a city like Raleigh, and that brought you in the most leads, and you also served Charlotte. Well, then you would know that, hey, probably Charlotte is what I should go after next. Now, for most companies that are just starting up an SEO or search campaign, this is not going to be applicable to you. You're going to have to use one of the other ones, but it is a way to determine keyword value. The next idea is paid search bidding prices. Generally, you can pull this information using the Google Keyword Planner and Google Ads. People who are willing to pay the most per click for a keyword, so we mentioned like one keyword might be $25 a click, one keyword might be $2.50 a click. The keyword that's $25 a click, the only reason people are paying $25 for one person to land on their website is because that keyword is making them a lot of money, or they're completely crazy, but it's probably making them a lot of money. Another way to determine keyword value is data on which content receives the most online attention in the form of backlinks, social shares, or email clicks. So if you're able to determine, hey, I made a piece of content on this, and people seem to really like this and want to share this around, but they didn't really like this piece of content over here as much, then that's an idea of what the market truly cares about. Another way to determine keyword value is simply asking your team or asking your sales team or whoever it would be which subjects they'd like to be known as a thought leader in. So say, hey, like if someone landed on our website or on a sales call with us, what would be the couple of topics that you would want them to just assume we're experts in? And finally, you can also look at your assessment of which new products or divisions require attention. So if you just launched a new product and you're not getting as many sales in for it as you want, then it probably makes sense to start there and try to bring it up to speed. So you try to rank for keywords around that topic, et cetera, et cetera. And that's generally how we determine keyword value. It's not something you have to think too much about, because most of the time you'll think, oh, our number one service that we need to grow is this. Let's go after this first. And it kind of makes sense from there. Or, hey, if we could just rank in this particular city, that would be huge. Or our office is located here. We should try to rank in this city. It makes logical sense which keywords to go after. The one thing I'd caution against is make sure you don't go after something too competitive. So if you have a brand new website, then you're probably not going to rank for like best CRM company. It's just not going to happen. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. You kind of develop this with practice. And if you're watching this, I'm happy to help you determine this. You can send me an email at chase@focus-digital.co. But essentially, you don't want to try to rank for something that you can't rank for in at least a year. Definitely not longer than 2 years. Otherwise, you're just going to be making a page and keeping updating it, and then you never rank for it, and all those resources are wasted. Now, if you have the stomach to wait 4 or 5 years to rank for a keyword, then by all means go for it. But us as an SEO agency, we have to get our clients' results relatively faster. We would get fired. And so as a matter of principle, we're only going after keywords we can rank in 6 to 12 months that are going to start bringing them in customers. And then we might say to the client, hey, this is a long-term play. It might take us 2 years to rank for this keyword, but if we do, it's going to make you a lot of money, bring you in a lot of leads. And then the client might say, okay, go ahead. So the next step is to assign each keyword a page type and a strategic objective. So I have a list up on the screen of all of the different page types we use as of now. This is kind of what we've narrowed it down to. There's subtypes of each of these types of pages. But this is generally the list. We have blog articles, industry pages, product service pages, comparison pages, testimonials pages, data metrics pieces, location pages, use case pages, guides, and contact us and about pages. So a blog article might be good for problem solution. Someone searches, hey, I have this problem with X, and you say, hey, here's the problem, here's the solution, builds thought leadership. An industry page is going to be along the lines of like, hey, I want a CRM company for healthcare. I want a CRM company for construction. Product service page is more broad than that. It's just saying, hey, here's a CRM, here's why it's the best. Or here's a custom website development service, and here's why it's the best. A comparison page. Here's 8 options. Here's the difference in between all of them. And what you probably do is you probably position it in such a way where your company is presented as the best option, which is totally okay. It's your website. Testimonials page. One of the big things that people do is they'll search for your company and reviews. So you'd better have a page out there that centralizes reviews in one place that people can land on. That'll rank in Google because there's some companies that do negative SEO on other companies, and they'll try to rank for keywords. Maybe you don't have very good Trustpilot reviews or Yelp reviews or whatever. It's worth having a page out there titled Your Company Reviews that might rank higher than those, that has your best foot forward on them. There's data metrics pieces, people searching, hey, what's the customer acquisition cost for healthcare or lawn care or, literally HVAC or anything else. Location pages. I want this service in this city. This is one of the big ones we do for local businesses. There's a subcategory of that called a sub-service page, which is essentially where we take a service and we mix it with a location. So it's not like, let's say your page is plastic surgeon in Greensboro, North Carolina. A sub-service page will be a specific service a plastic surgeon would offer, where it would say like, hey, I want a tummy tuck in Greensboro, North Carolina. A use case page, this is essentially where, hey, I want this service for this use case. I want a die cutting company for rubber, for example. A guide, this is going to be a long form page where someone's like, I want a full guide to whatever it is you do. And this is really, really good for building thought leadership and trust and authority. And in a way, this is a video guide that I'm doing right now. Last one's contact us and about page. People will type in, how do I contact this company? And you have a page show up, or, hey, I want to learn about this particular company. You have an about page. So those are important as well. So here's an example of what a strategic objective looks like. You want to assign each page a strategic objective, so when the writer goes through and actually writes the piece out, they understand what needs to be on there. So here's like a brief example. This page serves to explain our specific solution for this service in this industry. Include industry-specific case studies, best practices, use cases, things to know, process explanations, and the main value propositions on why to choose us. That's an example strategic objective for an industry page. Just so the writer, you want them truly thinking about how to make the best content, not what content to put on there. So I find if you go ahead and put the strategic objective up front, then they're going to do a lot better job. Okay. So the next step is to map each page onto the organizational structure of your website. So essentially, this is going to be, it's a kind of an optional step. We do it for all of our clients so they can kind of see, hey, this is where we're going. And so we'll say, hey, all these pages in red, you have them made already, but they need optimization. They need more content in order to rank. That's missing. It's not the best content on Google for that keyword. Therefore, we have to add more. Blue is just new pages. Obviously, you can use your own color code, but these are all the new pages that we're going to build out for you. And green is, we're going to keep these as is. Think about this as like the header menu on your website. So when you go to the website and you're clicking across the top, here's how it's generally going to be laid out. The reason why this is important as well is because Google looks at how easily accessible pages are from your homepage. When it's ranking how important it is to your website, which plays a role in rankings. And so if you have your most important pages sorted in a way that makes sense into the menu, and you can also put them into like sub page directories and such. You might have like /services /service1 /service2, etc. It helps a lot from an SEO perspective. And then finally, you write content that deeply satisfies search intent. So the example I have up on the screen, someone searches healthcare customer acquisition cost metrics. That's what CAC stands for. And you'll see overright a screenshot from an article I did where it breaks down the average customer acquisition cost for healthcare clinics by clinic type. So most companies who went out there just said, hey, the average customer acquisition cost for healthcare is $288 or whatever it is. I said, well, hang on. It's going to be a lot different for a dermatologist than it is going to be a neurologist. There are different price services. There's different target markets for each. There's different size of markets for each. And so I went in and did that study and figured out exactly what the organic and paid customer acquisition costs were for a bunch of different clinic types. And that's how you deeply satisfy the searcher intent. So there's 4 steps, if you call them steps, to satisfying search intent. The first is to understand what the search query even means. So when someone searches for a keyword, it's easy to look at it through our own inherent bias and think they typed this, that means they mean this. But that may not be what they mean. They may not actually be looking for what you think they're looking for. The second thing is to really think about who is searching. So if you need to think about what target market that the people searching this keyword fall into. So one of the things that I tell my writers to do is I say, hey, do an audience makeup table. So take your keyword and say, let's say the target customer is chief marketing officers. And it's chief marketing officers for healthcare clinics. And let's use the healthcare CAC metrics keyword as an example. Well, maybe 25% of the people searching that keyword are chief marketing officers or VPs of marketing for healthcare clinics. Maybe another 50% is office managers, and maybe an office manager would mean it's a little bit too small of a company for us if they're the one searching that. And then maybe the other 25% is doctors who are curious because they run their own clinics, et cetera, et cetera. Think about who's searching, and you want to make sure that you give at least 50% of that audience, ideally 100%, but you really only want to go after 1 or 2 of those, but you want it to be the one that's over 50%. So in that scenario where our target market that's searching is only 25% versus the 50% that's the office managers, we would have to write the piece for the office managers and subtly tie in the information that might be specific to chief marketing officers. We'd have to tie that in somewhere in the piece, because if we're not fulfilling the search intent of the majority that are searching a keyword, then we're not going to rank. The next thing is to answer searcher intent in succinct formats like tables and graphs. No one today with the attention span, less than a goldfish, wants to comb through miles of text to find what they need. And a lot of times if you go to a blog, you just see miles, like thousands of words written. I say you write until the search intent is satisfied and no more. And you also, if you can, fulfill the search intent in graphs and tables. Like, what would have been easier to decipher? If I broke out the healthcare customer acquisition costs by all of the different, like I said, okay, well, the average customer acquisition cost for ophthalmologists is this for organic and this for paid, and I wrote out sentences, or if I just put it into a nice table. Well, obviously the table is a lot better. And then you want to over-deliver through original data and insights and address every use case. So essentially what this means is that you want to give people more in that blog article than they've seen from anyone else. And you want to make it original. And you want to make it unique, because that is what ranks on Google. And when I mentioned earlier, when you have your audience makeup table and you've got all these different people, that's kind of the flip side of the coin from use cases. So if there's multiple ways a keyword could be used, then you want to make sure that every use case for that keyword is put on there. So an easy one for healthcare, one person might be searching for healthcare CAC metrics because they want to see exactly what their metrics should be for their particular area of practice. But another person might want to see what their metrics should be based on which marketing channel they're using. And that's how you make sure you're addressing every use case. One person might care about, hey, what about for my particular clinic size or my revenue level, or my location, whether I'm in a city or rural. These are all things that matter that you need to address when you're addressing every use case. So here's what a sample campaign plan looks like. So we typically split our campaigns into what we call projects. And so a project is based around a topical pillar. So let's say we're targeting the capabilities of a company first. We might do 11 service pages, 1 comparison table, and 1 data piece. Then we're targeting materials. So we'll do 12 use case pages, 1 comparison table. Different markets they serve. This is for aerospace. This is for national defense. This is manufacturing for healthcare, whatever it would be. Break out all of those different industries onto their own pages. And then you might have a locations pillar. So it's, hey, we target all of these different locations with our services, with our local SEO. And so that's where that would come into play. But you see how each of these are organized around one central idea that creates that niche expertise. So I'm going to give some examples of what some number one ranking content looks like. And I'm just going to kind of fly through here a little bit, but I just want you to get an idea of how we satisfied the search intent of visitors for 3 different types of pages. So the first one is data metrics piece. So customer acquisition cost for the fintech industry. We ranked number 1 for that. And the reason we ranked number 1 for that is because we made monster tables like this that took a ton of work to pull all the information together, where we said, hey, here are the different fintech niches. You got investment, you got banking, you got payment, you got blockchain, you got crypto, you got financial management, you got reg tech, you got enterprise. And here are all of the most common advertising channels that these companies use to get customers. And here's what the customer acquisition cost looks like for each of those. So we went through and we studied all that, and we figured out exactly where the average CAC metrics landed for each of those niches and for each of those channels. Here's one where if someone searches top die cut companies, we ranked our client number 1 for that. Now, top die cut companies is someone saying, hey, I want the best die cut company, but I want to compare different ones to see, hey, who's at the top of the industry? What's the differences in them? And so we made a big table called the best die cut companies in the US and had 8 different options, and we broke down what the differences were between them. And we ranked them, and we had a proprietary ranking algorithm. We said, hey, we're going to rank them based on how many industries they serve, what the experience of their team looks like, how long they've been in business, what their total breadth of services is, where they're located. Are they near distribution areas where they can easily get your shipments to you fastest? These are all things that we thought about whenever we made a table comparing a bunch of different die cutting companies. Location page. So there's some ads here, but we rank number 1 for that. And so someone searches for a hair transplant in that particular city. What did we do? Well, everyone else, it just so happened in that particular city, offering hair restoration services, was doing something called hair replacement, where it wasn't a natural hair transplant procedure. So we simply said, hey, most of the hair restoration providers in this city are doing X. We do it differently. We do Y. And so when someone lands on this page, we're entering into the conversation they're already having in their head. They're thinking to themselves, hey, I might not want just a hair replacement. I might want a hair transplant. But what exactly is the difference? Why should I do one over the other? We're making content that's specific to that location, such that it wouldn't make much sense if it was written about a different area where this doesn't apply. And it also wouldn't make sense for a different company in that area, because we wrote it specific to our client and what their value propositions were. And that's why they ranked number 1. So now I want to talk about the concept of link building. It's one of the big things you hear from SEO agencies all the time, where they say, hey, we have to go out and build you links. We have to go find article or websites that'll link to you. We have to get your domain trust up, etc., etc. And the concept is true. You do need links to rank for certain keywords, but you will not get links that actually count with the Google algorithm by doing all sorts of these kind of black hat tactics where we're trying to find websites where we can pay to let them link to us. Google is smart enough to identify these types of arrangements. And similar to going way back to what we talked about with the academic research papers, this idea that a keyword or a paper with 50 citations is better is only true because 50 real researchers or scientists read this research paper and said, hey, that's good enough to put in my paper. It was meant to be built on an idea that professionals, that true experts would be linking back to each other, not because of some sort of arrangement to rank higher, but because the content was truly unique and authoritative and well written. So the way that we recommend to build links is by using metrics pieces. So I've been talking about them all presentation. It's things like average metrics for this, or it's assessing. We did another one called assessing backlink quality. So how do you determine how quality a backlink is? We've done them for a lot for our heating and cooling clients, like what's the average cost to heat a home with propane, and we've broken it out by like how big the house is and what the climate looks like and how old the system is and how efficient the system is, et cetera, et cetera. And what this does is this gives unique information that's not yet readily available on the internet, and it puts it out there. Then other people want to link to that. They say, hey, that's really good. I want that on my website. And you're building links the organic way. Yeah, it might take a little longer to get the links, but at least the links will count and actually improve your domain authority. And domain authority is simply, it's an estimation of how trusted your website is by Google based on how many people are linking to it. There's no reason to go into that super in depth. When I say that, just know I mean how many other people and how trusted are those other people that are linking to your website. So there's 3 ways to develop these metrics pieces. The first is to do a meta-analysis based on publicly available data. So it might turn out that all of the data you need for your new data article or metrics piece is already out there on the internet, but it's on 15 different websites, or it's hidden within some government study, or it's, on some, random website, like one company is saying they found this, another company is saying they found this. Well, meta-analysis is you take all of that data, you combine it together, present it in a unique way. The second way is to use in-house data you already have. So if I ran an agency that managed sales teams for people, or like I was an appointment setting agency, so people hired me to make sure their leads were set up with sales appointments and follow up with leads after hours, et cetera, et cetera. I might release data based on how quickly you have to call a lead in order to have the highest chance of them converting into an appointment. And I think that data is already out there, but it's an idea of how a company doing something would probably have in-house data on that particular thing. And if you get really creative with it, you can come up with data metrics pieces that have never been done before that you already have the data to produce. So the next way, and the third way I have on here, is send out a survey or conduct interviews. So you can simply ask people what they think about this particular thing. So if I was trying to do average CAC by clinic type, and I didn't have any in-house data, I didn't have any meta-analysis data I could use, I might go and talk to 25 doctors and say, hey, what does your metrics look like for your customer acquisition cost for this? And it'd probably take a lot more than 25 to get to the point where I had enough data for a statistically significant sample. However, there's some industries where that's easier than others. So that's how you build links the right way. So let's take a look at the SEO conversion funnel and kind of transition this presentation a little bit into, hey, what kind of results can I expect from this thing? Why should I do this? So this example is a B2B company with a lifetime value per customer of about $46,000. So on average, about 1.4% of their website visitors turned into leads, which is honestly really high considering this is people doing research, this is people searching all sorts of things and landing on the website. 1.4% of those turn into leads. 39% of those leads end up being marketing qualified leads in that they fit the company's criteria of someone they would work with. Sales qualified lead is someone who's raised their hand and said, hey, we're ready to move forward. We want to talk to your sales team. Here we go. About 38% of people that were marketing qualified leads moved into sales qualified leads. Of the sales qualified leads, 42% of those turned into opportunities and 37% of those closed. So the full funnel conversion rate was about 0.032%, or one customer for every 3,100 visitors to your website. Now imagine that the number one keyword in your industry, let's say, I bet there is probably hundreds of thousands of people searching for CRM company every single month. The company that ranks number one for that, I believe it's Salesforce. If they're converting one in every 3,100 visitors, and I think the exact number is like close to 40% on average of the people who are going to click through to the organic results from those hundreds of thousands of people searching for CRM company to Salesforce's website. So let's say they're getting 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 visitors to that page just from one keyword, one page. And let's say Salesforce customers on average make $46,000 for Salesforce through their lifetime value. That one page is making them, close to $1 million in revenue every single month. And that's the true power of this if you can really rank for those high quality competitive keywords. But even if not, let's say you're targeting a keyword that literally 3,000 people search a month, well, you're getting, maybe you get one customer every 2 months that's worth 46 grand. That's, 6 customers a year. That's pretty good. That's just having one page on your website. You're going to have 50 to 200 of these. That's how powerful this is. So let's look at some campaign results for what this looks like. So this is how you're kind of trending the right direction. So this client we started with in January, and it takes some time to get them really going because you got to publish that first round of content. You've got to do all the strategic planning, et cetera, et cetera. But once it hits, it really starts to hit. And so you'll notice how they just kind of continually rise month after month, and they keep getting more total impressions, their average CTR keeps going up, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what the results look like for them. So in December of 2023, they got 202 visitors and 257 sessions to their website from SEO, which is essentially, people finding them when they search for their service on Google. In May, we had them up to 1,777 website visitors, and this is for a very niche product service, by the way. And they got 2,149 sessions, which is the total amount of times that someone came to the website. So it's a 780% increase and a 736% increase, respectively. In December of 2023, they booked no consultations from organic search. In May 2024, they booked 31. I'm filming this in August 2024. Last month in July, they got 48 consultations. So if you imagine organic revenue at a 20% closing rate, which is pretty standard if these leads are highly qualified, $9,000 average LTV, and that's on the lower side for them. It's, a simple 55 grand in revenue that happens, just from running this SEO campaign. And this is something that just continually happens every month and is continually built upon. And so you have to think we're essentially 6-7 months into this campaign now, and those are the results they've already gotten. Can you imagine you've done this for 2 years and you've started ranking for not 25 keywords like we're at with this client right now, but 75, 100. It can truly be just a crazy lead generation source for your business. So one of the questions that I'm asked on almost every call is, why should we hire professional content writers, an agency such as yours that puts so much emphasis on high quality content creation? Why should we hire them when we can just use generative AI like ChatGPT? Well, here's my response to that. So first off, Google is indifferent to whether generative AI is involved in producing the content. It only wants to deliver the most satisfying piece of content to searchers. So the issue is not that Google is going to flag your content for just being generative AI. And the reality is that generative AI can write the most satisfying content for informational searches. I want a definition. I want a broad concept explained to me. I want to differentiate between these two similar ideas. But it can't write the most satisfying content for higher stakes decisional searches that inform how money, time, and other resources should be spent. Would you ask ChatGPT who you should go to for brain surgery? No. And the main reason you wouldn't is because it's not a critical thinker. It's merely a collection of all of the different pieces of information available to it that fed its AI model, and it treats all of these pieces of information as equally valid. And so it's looking at all of these different sources, and it's not thinking through necessarily, hey, what this person is saying makes more sense than what this person is saying. They're just looking at both of these and they're saying, well, one person thinks this and another person thinks this. They're presenting them as equal alternatives. Searchers making decisions want content that makes a true, well thought out argument or presents information in a compelling way before making a decision, which AI just can't do. But here are some recommended uses of generative AI in content creation. Number one is creating personas while researching a client's target market. Number two is getting in the mindset to write a piece of content to a particular persona. Number three is generating a chart, table, or other visual element for a page. And number four is sifting through complex content to pull out conclusions or data. So these are ways I would use it. These are ways we do use it here at Focus Digital, but we never use it for writing contents. And it's a fireable offense here, just to be frank, using AI to write a piece of content, because we believe so strongly that human-written, authority-driven content is going to be what truly satisfies search intent the best. So here are 4 steps to take today. If you're looking for something to pull out of this training, you say, hey, maybe I'm not ready for a full-scale SEO agency to come on board with right now, but I still want to have something to pass along to my marketing team or to have them watch or to have them implement. The first thing to do is to update your meta title tags. So every page on your site, for probably 90% of them, will follow the formula of best or top. Then you put in your product or service. So you might say best orthopedic surgeon, or you might say orthopedic, and then you want some sort of qualifier that indicates transactional intent. So company, services. So you might say best die cutting company. And then if you're targeting a specific location, you'd say in location, like in Greensboro, North Carolina. If you're targeting a specific use case, you might say for best die cutting company for plastic. This also works for like industries. So best die cutting company for aerospace, et cetera, et cetera. So another way is to identify initial link building opportunities. So while you can't go out and just spam your links on all sorts of different ways, there are a couple of ways that you can get some initial links that will allow you to rank enough to start acquiring other links. Because when you start a brand new website, you have to get a little bit creative as far as, hey, how am I going to get my name out there a little bit? The reality is, though, for 99% of people watching this presentation, if you've been in business a while, you've already got your initial link building done just naturally. This will happen through affiliated companies. It'll happen through directories. You're listing yourself in maybe some like directories like Yellow Pages, vendor websites. So if you work closely with a particular vendor, you might say, hey, can you put my logo and a link back to me on your website? Professional organizations, chambers of commerce, organizations like that that'll list your company. Or like if you're a doctor and you're in a society for physicians in your particular field, there's probably a physician directory that will link back to you. These are ways you can start getting a little bit of high quality links that you're just getting right out the gate. And these aren't spam links. Google, there's a real reason that your link would be on these companies' websites. That's not just, hey, we asked them really nice to, and we didn't provide them with any content to put on there. And so this is a great way to get started. You want to check your site for errors. So you want to look at your site objectively and say, hey, is this easily usable? Does it load quickly? Is it clear how someone could contact me if they wanted to? Et cetera, et cetera. The last thing is to write thought leadership content. So write content based on unique experience, expertise, and insights. And if you want some ideas, feel free to email me. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is two models of SEO execution. So the first model is in-house. So this is where your marketing team is fulfilling this SEO campaign. The pros of this is there's an organic understanding of the brand, value proposition, and what makes you different in the marketplace. You don't have to convey that to an agency or someone else to write that for you. It adds to the internal skill set and the culture of the company. So you're going to be able to do more as a company. You're going to have more things under your belt. And you're able to adjust content with less turnaround time. If you see something that's not super accurate or you want to change the way it's written or whatever, you can get it done a lot quicker. Cons. Overly involved stakeholders can cause bottlenecks. If someone is, too many cooks in the kitchen, then there can be bottlenecks. There's a 1 to 2 year ramp up required to rival the outsourced equivalent, because obviously if you're figuring all of this out on your own, it's going to take longer to truly get up to speed. And there's also competing priorities that slow down delivery. So if you don't have a team that's just solely focused on SEO, which most companies won't, then there's always going to be different things that people need. Your marketing team might be making social media graphics. They might be taking sales meetings. They might be working with radio stations or working on print advertisements or a wide variety of things. Competing priorities will slow down the delivery process. And if SEO is not clearly set as, hey, this is the priority, then it simply won't get done. Now, here's the pros and cons of outsourcing to an agency like Focus Digital. Pros, you don't have any need to hire, train, and manage your staff. So we function like an in-house team for you in that we can help out. You can get on calls with us whenever. You can talk to us, say, hey, I like this. Hey, I don't like this. But you don't need to hire, train, or manage any of our staff. Like, obviously, we handle all of that. We have access to the latest SEO expertise and knowledge. And so, we're running all of these different client campaigns. We see what's working today. We're always running tests. And so we're going to know what things are working best as soon as they come out into the marketplace. There's also a lower cost associated with hiring an agency, because to truly do the content load needed for a proper SEO campaign, it's very expensive. You're talking probably 2 to 3 full-time people who would be managing this campaign. At the very minimum, if it's a smaller campaign, you need one person, and still hiring us is lower cost than putting someone like that on salary, especially someone who's going to truly know what they're doing. Cons. We need some ramp up time to learn about your company, your product, and your branding. So we're not going to jump in and get it all right away. What I found is typically it takes about a month for us to do all of our strategic planning, and then another 2 months of us writing content, sending to the client for us to truly hone in our skills and truly understand the brand. Your internal team isn't growing the skills whenever an outsourced agency is doing it. I mean, we obviously keep you fully informed on everything we're doing, but there's something to be said with learning by doing. It's also a really difficult industry to vet quality. 99% of SEO agencies, just to be frank, are not following the best practices that I went over in this presentation. They're still stuck within the prior eras of SEO, if you will, that we discussed. They're still making 500-word blog articles with stock photos at the top. They're still doing paid guest posts. They're still keyword stuffing. It's way too common. And so it's important to ask them these questions and make sure that you're truly vetting the quality of the agency. And that is the presentation. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at chase@focus-digital.co. I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I can. Happy to get on a call with you and go over your website and make any suggestions I can. And of course, if you're interested in working with us at Focus Digital, we would love to talk with you. We're going to be very straight up with you when we analyze your website and say, hey, this is how long it's going to take you to get results. This is what kind of results we can expect. This is what your ROI potential is going to look like, et cetera, et cetera. We don't believe in any type of hard sales calls. We're much more interested in working with clients who are going to be with us for years. And that's really our model. We don't onboard clients, and churn and burn them like most SEO agencies do. We truly vet our clients and say, hey, can we get this person an exceptional result? Will they be with us for years to come? Because it's a lot easier to keep clients than it is to find new ones. So if you're interested in joining the family, talking to me, and seeing how we might be able to help you, feel free. There'll be a button somewhere around this video where you can book a time to talk on my calendar, or you can obviously feel free to email me any questions there as well. So anyways, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.